All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my workshop, Astrological Alchemy 101. This is week 3 of this 3-part class on how to alchemize, then utilize the wisdom of your chart leaders for your benefit and your growth. Today's order of the day is to apply and let dry. We are going to plug in all that we have learned, what these things mean, and how they can work to grant you and those you love a much more well-aligned life. And so, part 1, to reiterate, there are separate workbooks for each week. So be sure to check the RSVP pages on the Sacred Bridges YouTube, or the RSVP pages themselves, or the Sacred Bridges YouTube for the links to those workbooks. Or if you did not see the link dropped in chat earlier, we should be able to repost that for you here. For those, again, who do not have printer access, there is zoto.com, which allows for the editing of PDF files for free. And we can also link that into the chat as well. Okay. And let's see. Yes. So yes, soto.com. For those who need that, definitely utilize that. Either way, it would definitely be a great idea to make sure that you either print or save the file and keep it with you for reference, especially if you intend on going back to the first couple of weeks of the class. So, there, second. So, there is a little bit of discrepancy here. I'm missing one of these slides. Oh, hold on. I'm missing one of my slides. Okay, well, technical difficulties aside. So I want to go back to where we were. We are here at week 3, yes, indeed. But I want to ask, some questions, and I know that you all may have some questions as well. So I know one of those questions that was asked by some previous attendees is, what do all of these things mean? So allow me to go forward. Oops, no, not go forward. I want to recap and talk about some of those aha moments. I want to exchange a little bit on where you find yourself in relation to astrology, in relation to alchemy now. What has this class opened up for you in respect to those things? And what have you learned about yourself in the process? I know that this course has also been involving some intensely personal work. And so with that, there could be, some things that we didn't realize about ourselves that we may now be coming to learn. So I'd like to see if there's anyone who has anything that they want to share about that space. And feel free to raise your hand, or if you want to share in the chat, you're more than welcome to do that. So either way, in recap, we have learned that synthesis, when it comes to our big three, is intensely personal. And while there are names that any of us can offer that may spark that aha, finding your personal element is going to be an intensely personal journey. And so there are many that often take that journey unguided, and there's no shame. There's no one right way to do it. There's no one right way to be. But understand that your unique combination of ingredients may be someone's cup of tea. It may be someone's Long Island iced tea, even, or it may be someone's Shirley Temple. Now, I don't know where you are in relation to everything that was discussed. However, think about all of the different things that we have learned, right? We found our ingredients in week 1. In week 2, we chopped everything up into bite-sized pieces. So today, what I want us to do is to drop all of it in a blender, let it rip, and serve. Which, if we're being honest, sounds like an exotic cocktail, right? Who feels like an exotic cocktail after everything that has been learned? So, thinking about our personal element, there's herbs that we use on a regular basis that are attached to a different element. There's tarot cards that have different planetary associations, and all of these things are related. And we learned that. And since all of these things are ruled by planets and related, understand that as they are things of nature, so are you. Your signs, your planets, or your signs are ruled by planets and elements and qualities, or modes as they're called. All of these things ruled under the same umbrella of things. So how better to align with the forces of nature than to learn what is uniquely connected to you through the elements? Learning your personal nature, your element, has been a bulk of the work that we've done. And so I can understand that it's a lot of work as well. But at the end of the day, you still have to be able to make interactions with others in your life and make them as full, effective, and meaningful as possible. At the end of the day, regardless of whatever it is that you're throwing into that blender, you're still going to have to be your favorite drink. So, why do I use these specific words that I use? Crickets, because no one really asked, I know. But I'll tell you, and I will say it slowly, not every interaction is going to be blissful. But we need to be open to the lessons contained therein. Otherwise, how do we survive? We have to be open to change. Change is the only constant in life. And so learning your big three will allow you to interact not only with yourself at deeper levels, but others at deeper levels. Learning how to interact with the world around you. Now, this is not necessarily to say that everybody's going to like you. And most times, honestly, I just say F it because, we did talk about, putting things in a blender and making drinks, and not everybody's going to like the drink that you are. But you still have to like you. Usually this is around the time where the spiritual counseling part of me will kick in, and I will continue to urge you to be who you are as you are, since most of those who are incompatible with you are going to be repelled naturally anyway. But we still live in a world that is co-created daily. And unfortunately, there's no deleting others based on disagreement, no matter how hard cancel culture would try. Some of us should really sit in gratitude for that, because if left to most non-pagans, I'm sure that we would likely be voted off of the island first. Now, mind you, I'm one to talk because I'm into dark paganism, so I definitely need some paddles. Take that as you will. So, all of this to say that we need to be deeply aware of our synergy and synchronicity versus discord and incompatibility, because these things are crucial to making this information work for you. There's nothing like having a relationship that moves as smooth as a new car, or having a freshly cut lawn of grass. There's also nothing like being in a car that you're afraid will break down or blow up at any moment, or a lawn overrun with toxic plants and pests, or better still, finding out that you're allergic. Now, while the witch doctor in me wants to make a little disclaimer about toxic plants and bugs and the medicine that they contain or can produce, even that is a field that one does not want to enter uneducated. So let's go back. Last week we spoke about combo platters and how to create those pictures for ourselves of our personal elements. And while we know that fire can dry up water and water can put fire out, there's also a point of balance where two elements work together and well, like boiling water or a warm shower or a jacuzzi. There's a point of balance for every combination of elements, which means that you, internally speaking, can find your own point of balance. Now, externally speaking, when we get into speaking of compatibility, you'll hear many talking about there's no tension in their relationships. And while it can be one way that a healthy relationship expresses itself, most would market it as though it's the epitome of healthy connection. Have no tension in your relationships, but how could that help you grow? To create diamonds, there must be pressure. But rightfully so, that kind of pressure might crush a tender, blossoming relationship. But no tension at all, and we'd all be like petals in the breeze. No direction, nor anchoring. So finding a balance of tension and flow are needed for growth. You swim further in your desired direction when all of your muscles are working in sync, right? Versus the stone that you would become while flailing. And then there's the directionlessness of floating. So it is very important to reach that point of balance. What does this mean in relation to astrological alchemy? You may mean this means that the sun sign compatibility that most people know only grazes the surface of what is generally known. And you have to dig deeper in order to understand your chemistry with others. It's not to say, well, it's not enough to say that all earth signs will get along with each other. How? Think about the qualities or modes. Two Taurus signs, if you can imagine this, whose mode is fixed. Again, we're just going based off of suns, are guaranteed to go nowhere unless there is something else in their big three that creates movement. And so both would likely be waiting for the other to initiate action. Can you imagine what that would look like? I've got an example for you. Anybody remember the vultures from the Jungle Book? So what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? And on and on and on. This could be extended to include any sun sign that has a fixed mode. Now, meanwhile, there are those who have mainly mutable natures, and we learned that mutable natures are which signs? Does anybody remember? Not necessarily a pop quiz, however. So, mutable signs. We're talking signs like Virgo, we're talking signs like Sagittarius, we're talking signs like Gemini. We're also talking signs like, what is the last one? Hold on. I did fire, I just did air, and was that water? No. Pisces. Okay, so Pisces. We have Sagittarius, we have Pisces, we have Virgo, and we have Gemini. So all of those are mutable signs with flexible qualities. So those who have mainly mutable natures could also use some fixed qualities as anchoring or some cardinal qualities to motivate them and get them initiating things. Now, cardinal people could also learn from fixed ones about stamina and how to endure, how to cultivate patience. They could also learn from mutable beings about flexibility. Now, mind you, all of these lessons won't be for everyone. But while some could learn these things from a deep dive into self, some will need to connect with others in order to learn these lessons of how to balance. Think about the aspects of self-regulation versus co-regulation. You can learn a lot when you take a moment to evaluate your own needs and strengths, and there is always something to be learned from co-creation with one another. Now, in holding space for others, it really, really helps to know how we can be helpful and to speak another's language. But what do you do when you can't articulate your need to another in relationship, nor for yourself? We do then what any responsible owner would do. Look at the manual, right? we go back to the manual. Now, obviously, there is no specified manual or a one size fits all solution for everyone. But there is a blueprint with your name all over it. It's your birth chart. Oh, one moment. Okay. So moving on to the next page. Let's take a look at your rising signs again. So we're already familiar with this from week 1, right? So let's recap about all the wonderful things that our rising sign can bring forward. Think about all of the ways in which we can incorporate more magic into our lives by utilizing our rising sign or working with our rising sign. Think about spells or rituals that speak toward initiating social connections, new work relationships, new love interests, travel, introductions, or even physical presentation and appearance. If you use the colors as related to your rising sign, or even for that matter, think about the day of the week you were born, if you really want to get deep with it. But using these things in relation to those kinds of magical workings can boost the effectiveness of your spells. Think about the ways in which utilizing the associations with your rising sign. Now, I know that for some, they like utilizing the crystals or the gemstones that are linked toward their rising signs. Some like using colors that are associated with their rising signs. Other times, think about the time you were born, like the specific time that you were born during the day. Try making it a point to do something celebratory during that time. Like if you knew that you were born at, let's say, 5:55 in the evening, make that your special time of day. Make that your moment for self. Even. Speaking of moment for self, in traditional teachings about astrology, it's often said that our rising sign is our true self. And then there are others who are of the school of thought that it's merely a representation of our persona. But one way or another, it has a lot to say about the way that we present ourselves to the world and that which is important to us. When you interact with others, since the rising sign is our mask, since it is the way that we interact with others socially, keep this in mind and get curious when you're interacting with others. Ask if they know their sun sign, and then let it be an icebreaker question. Also, take the time to discuss the nuances of the big three. It is absolutely a worthwhile conversation. And it does show others, it's a worthwhile conversation, and it does show others that you are genuinely interested in who they are. and not just your assumptions. When going to the moon sign, we're talking about our emotions, our feelings, the unconscious habits that we have. Also, to be alluded to is the connection that we have to our mother or feminine figures. And so, use the energy of the moon to cultivate your emotional balance. Actively welcome in your emotions. Learn to work toward the emotional and love languages of those that you interact with regularly. Now, this is not necessarily to say that you want to connect with everybody that way, but those that you interact with regularly, try to learn their emotional languages, learn their moon sign, and have discussions with them about, their feelings. Be open, be honest, be regular with it, because it's necessary to be able to process your emotions in a healthy way. And unfortunately, if you have a badly aspected moon, sometimes you have difficulty expressing your emotions openly or in a healthy way. But we'll talk about that more in the 201 class, because yes, we've only covered the basics. We haven't talked about any aspects this time around. So also a good idea is looking at the phase that the moon was in at your time of birth, because then that could also be useful for emotional grounding if you're doing emotional grounding spells or grounding spells in general. That could also help. If you have some emotionally charged work that you're trying to do, or if you're planning on doing a spiritual cleansing, purification of self, work with your lunar return. Working with your lunar return while doing those things can also aid you in feeling a little bit more peaceful within yourself. And it can leave you more open to the energetic realignment. Now, sun sign, as we discussed before, it is who we are at the core. So when you think about the fact that, again, it's a slower moving body, use your sun sign to plan for long-term passion projects. When you're doing the mapping out of a garden, when you're doing deep transformative inner work and lifestyle change, you're doing a new routine, or even if you're just redecorating the house or planning a vacation or group work. Now, I know that the basis of our work has been to unlearn the bias on the basis of suns. But if you look at organizing groups for long-term work based upon sun sign, you're more likely to come away with a group that is at its core better functional than just throwing together a random group of people. To bring it back full circle, it really helps to know with who you're dealing with, who you're mingling with. We live in a world that wants ready-made everything, but sometimes it helps to take that time to put a little thought and care into how and who we interact with, whether casually or regularly. So, just as a recap, your chart is your factory settings. And we're all born with factory settings, albeit at different angles. And while we can always learn and grow in many areas, these settings are our default. So definitely try to learn as much as you can so that you can learn how to play up your strengths and unlearn all of the things that are not beneficial for your unique mission and or purpose. Now, I'm not going to dive too far into anything like motivations or thought processes or romantic situations because that is part of our 201 course, for which we will be talking about the big six. But what I can say is that relating to others is absolutely multifaceted. And there are so many nuances that can't be simply explained with just the examining and comparing of the big three. But it is a damn good place to start. So I want to take some time to do some live big three synastry. And I want to make space for a couple of people to come off mic and interact. But I just want to give you a small example of what kind of connection the big three can determine for you. And if you have your person's info, I would love to call on you. Raise your hand if you wouldn't mind participating. Okay, awesome. And my mod's got her hand up. Whenever you're ready, you can unmic. Okay. Are you going to be participating in the chat, or are you just are you going to open your mic and
I can talk.
okay, cool. Okay. So your big three, if you will.
My sun sign is Virgo. My moon sign is Cancer. And my rising sign is Sagittarius.
Okay. So sun Virgo, rising sign Sag, and moon sign Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your person. You don't have to say name, but it could be anybody.
I only know his sun sign, but I know what time he was born.
And then there's that.
So his sun sign is Gemini.
Okay.
And he was born at 8:30 a.m. I'll type his birthday in the chat.
Thank you. And most of the apps before interpreting rising sign also require place of birth. So if you could type that into the chat as well. Okay. Okay. And so I'm going to take a moment. And I don't know if any of you have an app that you prefer, but I prefer um, utilizing the Time Passages app. I have the pro version, and I usually use that to generate the charts, and then I go in with the interpretations of them. So what I want to do is I just want to spend some time with the big three. I want to spend some time just doing a little bit of synastry with the big three, because I think sometimes it's a lot easier to do big three synastry than it is to do whole chart synastry. And for the interim, it definitely gives good ground to stand on when interpreting, or should I say, when trying to figure out your connection with other people. And it's very quick in comparison to whole chart synastry. So I'm entering his information right now. And I'm realizing that I don't have your information, my mod. I did not save it there into my phone. Okay. And you said Arkansas. What? Okay, I see your information. I'm typing that in right now. Okay, so I just found him. And okay, so I think I may have missed it, but can you remind me again, time of birth? Okay, thank you. Okay, so what I'm seeing for him is that he has a Capricorn moon and Cancer rising. Oh boy. Okay, so this can actually be quite interesting because you and he both have suns that are ruled by Mercury. So what this means for me when I look at compatibility is that you're going to have an easier time speaking each other's language because you're both, number one, mutable in mode, and number two, you're ruled by the same planet. So at the core, even if you approach things at different angles, you're always going to have this point of understanding because you're ruled by the same planet. Mm. Also, what I'm seeing is that your moon sign and his rising sign sync up. You both have Cancer that way. Oh, that's actually interesting. So, okay. Okay, so if I look at the picture, well, happy early anniversary. So if I look at the larger picture, what I'm seeing is that your rising sign meshes with his moon sign and vice versa, because you have Sag rising and his moon sign is your neighbor Capricorn. So there's something that can be worked out that way because, again, I don't know if you can see this, and I really want to show that. So there's this little cross section that's happening here between your rising sign and your moon signs. It's pretty nice because neighbors, when it comes to sun signs, even if they are a little bit different than each other, they're still cordial. They're still able to be friendly because, well, they're neighbors. They share space with each other. They share borders, even. And so Sagittarius and Capricorn, even though they approach things differently, we're still talking hooves. We're still talking that you both have hooves. And so there's, again, a point of balance, a point of understanding. The same thing with having Cancer in both of your big three. You're going to be able to exchange. He's going to come off as emotional on the outside, or even for that matter, deeply emotionally, deeply emotionally, how can I say, aware, and not to say that he's not. However, in the expression of that, because moon sign Capricorn, much more reservation. So the idea of having that awareness of emotional shifts and changes, but not always being able to bring that out of himself, if that makes sense. At least that's what I'm seeing. And so for you, who is definitely much more in touch with being emotionally expressive, that can sometimes feel like the intellectualization of your emotions when trying to talk to each other. When he's trying to understand you, he may come all the way up here to his head and intellectually try to pick apart what's happening, but you're more in the feeling space. And so I can understand how sometimes that may make interaction difficult. But because at the end of the day, like I said, you are both ruled in your sun sign by Mercury, you're going to have that point of understanding. You're going to be able to shake it off, so to speak, toward the end of the day. I would venture to say that it's not very likely that either of you goes to bed angry. Okay, awesome. So, and I'm taking it that the person that you're asking is, deeply connected to you. So I would definitely, I would definitely recommend that if you're wanting to learn more about that relationship from an intimate partnership standpoint, definitely come to check out the 201. And I know that you're my mod, so you're probably going to be there anyway. So, and I appreciate that. So, is there anyone else who would like to participate in the Big Three Synastry portion of this recorded course? And no worries if you don't want to participate in the recorded portion of it. I do have one-on-one assistance that I can offer as well, so that we ain't putting your business all the way out there. So moving forward, I just want you all to be able to trust your process. Just trust your process. Researching compatibility based on the big three can definitely be fun to practice. And like I said, it is relatively quicker than reading a whole synastry chart. Now, if you know your sun sign is compatible with your person, as we've mentioned from the previous example, you can see if your values are going to mesh and be complementary to one another. Now, this kind of compatibility is what deep friendships are made of, and how long-term bonds are formed. Now, comparing your moon signs, that can offer you insight into how empathetic you'll actually be with one another's emotional waves, and how often you'll actually be in sync. Now, your rising sign, as has been stated before, can offer a bit of insight into what you like physically, or even for that matter, how attractive you'll be to each other socially. Will your personas be a synchronistic symphony or a drunken, dysfunctional drum solo? Try saying that 5 times fast. I tried, it didn't work. So taking the time to explore your rising sign compatibility is a great way to find who may be fun to hang out with on occasion. You'll usually find greater social fulfillment with those signs, whether in mode or element, that blend well or are similar to your own. But do understand that with your rising sign, again, and it's all superficial. It's all the exterior, it's the mask. Hence why I mentioned the casual interaction space that our rising sign provides with this. Now, again, to reiterate something that was said in week 1, if your rising sign is the same as your moon sign or your sun sign, that then changes. It becomes more of the what you see is what it is. And so, either way, just remember to take time to invite your big three into your life, into your interactions. Make it part of your routine, make it part of your process. When you're interacting with other people, like I said, use it as an icebreaker. You can also, like I said, invite your big three in by incorporating it into your spell work, making sure that you're reading your transits. We discussed that as well in week 1. Now, I'm sure that there are other ideas that will pop up based on the myriad of information that I've provided over these last few weeks. And I fully encourage you to follow that which is given intuitively by your spirit team. Because again, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to spark. I'm here to spark your imagination and give you a new view. But again, I digress. There is always going to be that point of balance when doing any kind of compatibility, when exploring your elements either internally or externally. There's always going to be a point of balance where things just naturally flow together. But some connections do take work, whether on the inside or on the outside. And this whole workshop is a tool to help you decide how you'd like to show up and be present, to provide you with all the info that you need in order to choose how you want to do the work that you are here and purpose to do. You have the choice of how you want to engage, if you want to engage at all, but we are all tasked with showing up just as we are, whatever element, mode, planet, or combination of these you represent. Know thyself and stand strong in your personal element. That's always going to lead you back home. So I know that I've given a lot of information over the last few weeks, and I hope that this class has helped you better inform yourself about how the big three is useful, all the secrets that it has, and how it can enhance your work. Now, I do hope to see you here for the 201, and we'll be taking a deeper dive into the big three and connect them to the three more planets, like I said, Mercury, and then Mars and Venus. And indeed, we will be discussing the big six. We'll be talking about thought processes. We'll be talking about communication. We'll be talking about love languages, motivation, and of course, relationships at a more intimate level. Now, I will be offering this to those who have attended the 101 for a discounted rate. I'm looking to take a small group, about 20 or so people, because I want to leave room for personalized attention and any questions that may come up during the work that we do. So if you come this far and you've really been craving deeper details on discussions like houses and stelliums and the like, come to the 201. We may even graze Chiron and Lilith, because what discussion about relationships and communication would be complete without talking about those old wounds? So again, if you're seeking to take a deeper dive, there's a lot that I will be sharing in that class, and I am super excited to exchange with those who are really passionate about the topic as well. The topic of not only synastry, but also Big Six. So thank you. Thank you to all who have been actively participating in this class. It has been a magical 3 weeks, and it has been an honor to interact with all of you on such deep levels. I really appreciate you, and I know that this is not easy work. But I am super proud of everyone who has been showing up to do this work for themselves. I do hope that this class and everything that I have been able to share has been of value to you. I would like to close this tonight by leaving you with a short Cherokee prayer. Galulo, Kikini, Niduga, Sky, our grandfather. Nudawa, Inilisi. Moon, my grandmother. Iloke, Kineche. Earth, our grandmother. Galie, Vika. I am thankful. Sikine, get. We love each other. Osala, Kie, Vika. We are great. I'd love to take a moment of gratitude for everyone, again, who was here in attendance, for the moderators, for all the wonderful minds behind the scenes and collaboration for this presentation. And thank you to all of those who have donated and will donate so that I, as well as Sacred Bridges, may continue to do this work and offer these courses. Mods, if you will, do we have time for any questions? Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So, are there any questions about anything that I've offered during this week? Any questions about 201? Any questions about week 1 or 2? You can ask in the chat, or you can raise your hand to unmic. Awesome. Yes, yes. And as was said in the chat, yes, they Sacred Bridges is offering a Pagan 101 class starting on the 28th of this month, September. And it is going to be in person and on Zoom at 7 p.m. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Connor.